Evening. Welcome to Tuesday Folk People. My name is Maddie Leadham and I will be your host here this evening. We have quite an exciting session for you as we span a wide variety of different folk styles, from shanties to céilís, Arabic folk songs to Sweet Child of Mine. For our second half, we're going to be talking to Kim and Phil Biggs, and that's where our céilí side of things comes in. But for the first half, we're going to travel across to Quebec in Canada to talk to Seán Dagher about his shanties and much, much more. Hi, Seán.
Hi, Maddie.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm very well. Very excited for this session because you are our first ever Canadian folk performer. So it's great to get an insight into this. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. And I think that we should begin with your first song, which is called Leave Her Johnny. Could you tell our audience a bit about this song?
This is one of the most famous sea shanties and one of the most well-loved ones because it's just such a beautiful melody, and there's hard work, but there's melancholy, and there are hundreds of verses, and you can sort of choose the ones that tell the story you want to tell right now. So for this one, I actually chose a few verses that I hadn't sung on the Assassin's Creed version that I sang of this, which is how a lot of people know the song. So it was sort of an alternate lyrics version.
Oh, my poor old mother, she wrote to me, "Leave her, Johnny, leave her." She wrote to me to come home from sea, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Beware those packet ships, I say. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. For they'll steal your stores and your clothes away, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, I hope that you will never be. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. In a gallows hell the likes of she, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We were made to pump all night and day. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. And we half dead beggar all to say, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. The old man swears and the mate swears too. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. The whole crew swears and so would you, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We'll make her fast and we'll stow our gear. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the girls are waiting on the pier, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We've all grown old and weak and sad. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. From too many years on this wooden clad, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Come sing me bullies this farewell song. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. If you sing it right, the work won't take long, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. And it's time for us to leave her.
Thank you very, very much, Sean. I love that one. When I first heard it, it was stuck in my head for like a week. It's just
Yes.
there, and that'll be the case now. I'm not going to get that out, but I'm not complaining. It's great.
Good.
So what our audience might not know is that you feature this kind of shanty music and everything on your YouTube channel, don't you? It's Shanty of the Week.
Yes. Every Tuesday I put out a new video where I present a song. I talk a little bit about it, either about the song itself or the work it would have been done for. And I teach people how to sing the bits they have to sing, the crew responses. And then I sing the song. And during the song, I also put panels on the screen that explain certain terms that come up in the song. And basically, what I do is anything that I didn't know about or had to look up or found to be of particular relevance, I put that. If it was interesting to me, maybe it'll be interesting to other people.
No, 100%, definitely sharing the knowledge. But
and
why...
jokes. I also put sassy remarks, like as if the text was another person sort of chirping me.
Excellent. Why did you choose to do about shanties? What is it about shanties that you like?
Since doing the Assassin's Creed recordings, I realized that lots of people like this music, and I sort of decided to see how far we could go with this. And I made it one of the projects that I've been working on for the last several years. So with a group called La Nef, we did a concert of songs from the game, and then that turned into an album, and then we've toured it all over Canada, East, West. We've done collaborations with choirs, and we're going to do a collaboration with the symphony orchestra coming up. So it's just one of the projects I've been working on, and it's gotten a pretty good response. People have wanted to come see the shows, and presenters have wanted to hire us to play the show. So obviously, as a performer, it's encouraging to work on something that people want you to do.
Yeah.
And then I started the video series, the Shanty of the Week, when in September last year, when everything shut down and got canceled because of COVID, and then everything was getting rebooked, and then everything got shut down again for the second wave of COVID. And I thought, well, what can I do that's not going to get canceled? And what's not going to get canceled is sitting in my basement blabbing at a screen about music that I happen to quite like.
Shanties are such a popular folk music style, I think, with the general public, both young and old. And what is it about shanties, do you think, that make them popular? What's the features?
Well, there's a couple things. There's the sort of the mythology and the mystique of it, saying, oh, this, the sort of vague association with pirates and Johnny Depp, and but then there's also the nature of the songs, which are call and response songs. And we see this in lots of other cultures. In French Canada, where I live, there's a really strong call and response song tradition, as there is in Brittany and, well, everywhere really. But those are some of the ones I know about. But in English, these are some of the most sort of strongly call and response structured songs that we have, and it really gets people together. When I started playing, my day job for the last 25 years has been playing in Irish pubs, singing for people getting drunk. And I noticed right away that as soon as there was a song that had a phrase that the audience had to holler back at us, those songs became hits, and we would sort of place them strategically in the set to use them to the best effect. And then when I realized that shanties that's all it was. It was a whole repertoire of songs that was just about getting the audience to holler back. So I started using them, for that as something to get the audience going. You know? So
Yeah.
that's and I think that's why lots of people do like shanties, because they can get into it. They can participate in the song without having to know anything, and without even having to know the song prior to hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, it's all about interaction and kind of builds like a community of the performer and the audience somehow.
Yes.
It's really nice. No, I love them. And actually, speaking of shanties, I think we should hear our next one, which is called Rio Grande. Have I said that right? I don't know whether it's Rio Grande or Rio Grande or something.
Yeah, well, the whole point of this one is to say it wrong. So I mean, there are typical sailor pronunciations, and I don't know if there's any basis in history, but it's what I hear other shanty singers saying. So I'm not gonna take any chances. I'd say Rio Grande or Rio Grande. In the song, I actually said both just to hedge my bets. And it's not about the river in Texas, that borders United States and Mexico. It's one of the Rio Grandes in Brazil, which actually is sort of more or less straight across from Liverpool. So if you were sailing, for instance, from the UK and wanted to go to the Pacific, you would actually go straight across to the Rio Grande and then sort of follow the coast around Cape Horn. So that was the most dangerous part of the journey, where the first sort of dangerous leg of the journey going around the Cape was bad too. But the going across the open waters there to get to the Rio Grande, it was sort of a beacon that we've passed this first difficult part of the journey. And I think that's some of the joy in this song is from that. I happen to choose less joyous verses, sort of inspired by Shane MacGowan a little bit in the choice of verses for this one.
We were sick on the beach and our money was gone. Way for Rio. So we sign on this packet to drive her along, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. There were some of us sick, there were some of us sore. Way for Rio. We had scoffed on our grub, we were looking for more, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. So away, bullies, away. Way for Rio. Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. We're a deep water ship and a deep water crew. Way for Rio. We don't like the grub, no, I'm damned if we do, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. So heave up the anchor, let's heave it away. Way for Rio. It's got a good grip, bullies, heave her all day, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. So away, bullies, away. Way for Rio. Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. Oh, where are you bound to, me bullies and all? Way for Rio. We're bound to the southward, me bully boys all, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. And what will you do there, me bully boys all? Way for Rio. We'll dig for our fortune, me bully boys all, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. Oh, away, bullies, away. Way for Rio. Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. We'll dig for our gold there, me bully boys all. Way for Rio. Or die of the fever, me bully boys all, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. So heave with the will, boys, oh heave long and strong. Way for Rio. So sing a good chorus of a bully good song, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. So away, bullies, away. Way for Rio. Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool girls, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. Yes, we're bound for the Rio Grande.
Excellent, thank you, Sean. I have to say, when I was listening to it, the way that you say Rio Grande, it's like it's got this thing in my head that's like, not Rio, it's Rio. It really does.
Yeah. No, I fully expect to be corrected on that by actual proper Spanish speaking people. So
But that's the fun, isn't it? That
yeah, it is.
knowing that you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a couple of times about Assassin's Creed, and for our audience who don't know, you have actually sung on the video game Assassin's Creed. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so Ubisoft, who makes those games, has an office in Montreal, and one of my colleagues who plays in the Linef project with me, I also played pubs with him for a long time, and he was known to someone who worked at Ubisoft as someone to put together sort of vaguely Celtic sounding music, and so they asked him. He was hired to do that, and he hired me and a couple other singers to come in and sing sea shanties for one of the games, and that was Assassin's Creed 3. And we didn't just sing shanties. We sang. That's the one that takes place during the American Revolution. I've never played any of these games. This is just what I've heard. So we sang as American soldiers and British soldiers, and we played instruments and sang as tavern musicians, and we sang a few songs as sailors. Not many. I can't remember how many were in that first game. And they were planning this sort of bonus pack of like a little sailor edition for it to add on, but the shanties in AC3 were so popular that they turned that bonus pack into a full-fledged Assassin's Creed game, Black Flag. And so it got launched as a full game. So we sang another, I don't know, 35 or some shanties for that. Someone actually counted, so I don't remember the numbers. We sang 35 shanties for that, and then there was a bonus pack off of that where we sang another 50 shanties for that. So that's how I got into it, and that was the first time I realized how popular it could be, and it sort of restored my faith in the general masses' ability to like music that I also liked.
Well, I think I mentioned before that must be millions of listeners listening, like playing on that game and listening to the songs. So it's got to obviously be popular enough, hasn't it?
It is, and the the kids or older kids of all ages who would be listening to this wouldn't necessarily otherwise have been exposed to it and wouldn't have had the opportunity to like it. And that speaks not just to this style of music, but to all styles of music. People, I think, can like all kinds of things, all manner of blips and squeaks, if they just have the chance to hear them. And I think that this game happened to give them that chance for this music.
No, excellent. Right, let's hear your third song, General Taylor. Could you tell us a bit about this one?
Yeah, General Taylor, he was American general in the Spanish-American Wars, and then briefly went on to be president, but he didn't really like it that much, and so he died 16 months into his presidency. I had read somewhere that he was one of the worst presidents, but he wasn't. He was just one of the most indifferent presidents. He didn't do anything, but he was a great general, and he and Santillana, his Mexican counterpart, went head to head lots of times. And the funny thing is, in each of the songs named after them, they are claimed to have been the victors, and the other guy was claimed to have run away. But I mean, history says it was Taylor who won and Santillana who ran away. But I just like it that in the Santillana song it's reversed.
General Taylor, he's dead and he's gone. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. General Taylor, he's long dead and gone. Carry him to his burying ground. To me way, storm and blow. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. To me way, storm and blow. Carry him to his burying ground. We'll dig his grave with a silver spade. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. His shroud of the finest silk will be made. Carry him to his burying ground. To me way, storm and blow. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. To me way, storm and blow. carry him to his burying ground. We'll lower him down with a silver chain. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. On every link his name is engraved. Carry him to his burying ground. To me way, storm and blow. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. To me way, storm and blow. Carry him to his burying ground. Oh, Tater lies low in a salt sea bed. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. Our hearts, they are sore, and our eyes, they are red. Carry him to his burying ground. To me way, storm and blow. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. To me way, storm and blow. Carry him to his burying ground. To me way, storm and blow. Walk him along, Johnny, carry him along. To me way, storm and blow. Carry him to his burying ground.
Thank you, Seán, for that. I think one thing that I really get from your recordings we've heard so far is how authentic they all sound. It really does sound like you have a whole chorus of people joining in, and it's amazing. How do you manage to achieve that sound?
Well, first is about choosing, designing the song, doing the vocal arrangement to sound, to evoke what people might imagine as an earlier sound. You know, I'm putting in harmonies which people may or may not have sung, but I'm trying to put in harmonies that are plausible. You know, I don't want to put in something that sounds like it's from 1980. I want it to sound like it could be from 1780.
Yeah.
So that's the choice of notes to sing. And then I add, I sing the lead voice when I'm filming the video that you see. That's actually happening at the same time. And I don't make any corrections on that. I can't make any corrections because then I have to correct the video as well, and I'm not good at that. So I just put the voice up, and it is what it is. And then I start adding on backing voices, and they're anywhere from 16 to 32 backing voices.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I just what I do is I set up 2 mics, like a sort of equivalent to sort of people's ears, people's 2 ears, and then I sing. For instance, the low voice, I'll sing it in 4 different times. I'll sing it like far left, middle right, and far right. I don't know if we're turned around seeing this. Far left, middle, and then I'll do the same thing for all the voices. So it sounds like there are four people singing that line together, but standing side by side. If I did them all sort of on top of each other, and I have done this in some of the songs before I really got my technique down, it tends towards a sort of artificial metallic sound if you just sing the voices on top of each other. So yeah, there'll be, if say I have and I usually start with 3 or 6 backing lines, and then 4 guys singing each line. So it ends up being a whole whack of guys, and but spaced out as if it were a choir. And I really should do it where I sing some of the people closer to the mics and some of the people farther back from the mics. That way it would sound like we were 3 or 4 deep. I mean, a real clump. And I think people's ears pick up on that sort of the way I've placed actually myself, the way I place myself in the space of this room when I'm doing it. And that so maybe those 2 things make it sound authentic. Also, I'm not a trained singer. I did take some voice lessons in university a long time ago. My voice changed a lot then, but it went back to normal afterwards. And I've just learned to sing, in pubs with Guinness and whiskey. So
authentic. That's the word that comes out to me when you're describing that. You're doing everything you can to make it as authentic as you can have it, and not sound forced or a bit fake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it really comes across. And so we should hear our 4th song, which is Storm Along. Could you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is one of the ones this is the last one that I did before doing the spacing people out. And a sound engineer friend of mine called me afterward, and he was like, "No, no, no, all right." So so this was the last one. So see if you can hear the difference. I tried to compensate with technology. Anyway, Storm Along. He's a sort of mythical character in sort of sailor mythology, and he was said to be umpteen feet meters tall, and eat sharks for breakfast. And his ship was so large, you needed horses to get from one side to the other. And he fought the Kraken twice. And there are lots of verses about him, his exploits. And there are generally, in a lot of these songs, there are groups of verses. So there are verses about his funeral, uh, you know, 10 or 15 verses about his funeral that you could choose to sing those ones. There are verses about his actual exploits. And then there's this sort of weird string of verses about what we would do if we were his son, or what we're carrying on his legacy. And interestingly, these same verses also get sung for Santana and for General Taylor. So sometimes you hear the same verses in different songs. I think for this one I chose the most uplifting verses. Yeah, verses about the good things that the sailors could dream about um, while doing hard, thankless work day after day on a ship.
Oh, storm along and around we'll go, storm, storm along. Oh, storm along and around we'll go, storm along, me Johnny. Old Stormy was a captain bold, storm, storm along. A grand old man of the days of old, storm along, me Johnny. Oh, Stormy loved a sailor's song, storm, storm along. His voice was true and his heart was strong, storm along, me Johnny. But now old Stormy's dead and done, storm, storm along. We marked the place where he was gone, storm along, me Johnny. I wish I was old Stormy's son, storm, storm along. I'd build a ship of 1,000 ton, storm along, me Johnny. I'd sail this wide world round and round, storm, storm along. With gold and silver I'd be found, storm along, me Johnny. I'd fill her up with Jamaican rum, storm, storm along. I'd give out drinks to everyone, storm along, me Johnny. We'd drink as much as a sailor can, storm, storm along. With a bloody great bottle for the Shanty man, storm along, me Johnny. I'd feed you well and I'd raise your pay, storm, storm along. I'd fill your cups 3 times a day, storm along, me Johnny. For 50 years we'd sail the seas, storm, storm along. We'd have no gales but a good stiff breeze, storm along, me Johnny. Storm along, me Johnny.
We are running out of time a little bit, but there's something that I really want to just look at, and that is that you're not just a performer, but you're also a composer. And from the chat that we had before, I really got that you're not necessarily a composer just for a straight genre, but you're really good at blending different styles together. So some of them like Arabic and Celtic and Baroque and everything. And I was wondering if you could tell us just a little bit about each one. So maybe could you tell us a bit about like your Arabic music, maybe the Festival du Monde Arabe or something?
Sure. Well, my dad is from Lebanon, and so Lebanese music I listened to a lot growing up. And I don't speak Arabic, so I didn't get into it in the same way that I got into my mother's music, which she's from Scotland. But the sounds were always there, and I lived in North Africa for a while when I was a kid, and so heard a lot of Arabic sounding music. And when this opportunity came up with the Festival du Monde Arabe, which means Festival of the Arabic World, here in Montreal, they wanted to do a concert that highlighted or that compared and contrasted Lebanese folk dance and song with Quebecois folk dance and song. So we had a Quebecois band and a Lebanese band and Quebecois dance troupe and a Lebanese dance troupe, and there was a choir. And so I did the arrangements where I would sort of take a Lebanese folk song and pair it with a Quebecois folk song, and have each one played first in their own styles, and then sort of intermingling, and then if I could, I would have them both be played simultaneously in a sort of fusion style, and then the choreographers would take my arrangements, and they would build dances based on that fusion. So where one dance troupe would start, then the other, and then they would sort of mix together, and that was a great opportunity for me to develop my knowledge of that music, and to work with musicians, Arabic musicians, and Quebecois musicians as well. I feel very lucky to have had that opportunity, and to have your music performed on a big stage, in front of thousands of people while people are dancing. I feel very lucky to have had all these opportunities. I really want to say that the video game and the Arabic music, and I feel honored to be involved in all these projects.
Oh, well, it's no easy feat what you're doing. I don't think that anyone could just blend Lebanese music and sort of Celtic or Quebecois, is that how you say it, music. Yeah. I think it's really amazing. But you also do it with Baroque, don't you? You blend Celtic and Baroque music.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of that is based on the idea, I don't know if it's true or not, but the idea that, the Celtic music that we play these days has its origins in the 18th century sound. Even the Irish fiddle tunes that were composed through the 19th century were composed in an 18th century style. So the Baroque music really features, the 18th century, the first half of it anyway. And so people were exploring the idea of, well, what if we got people who sort of are used to playing 18th century music in a period style, and what would it sound like if we gave them this 18th century style music from from the Celtic countries? And so that idea has been around for a long time, and I'm one of the people who has contributed to the to the works that people play in that fusion of styles.
Amazing. I could talk about this all day, because there's loads more like we haven't mentioned. The Sky Consort, which, just briefly, that's you arranging different Celtic tunes with different things.
How with a Swedish singer. So we do Scandinavian music and with Celtic and Quebecois and French Canadian music all mixed together. And that's less of an arranging thing. I'm not really the arranger in that one for that project. We all sort of contribute as a group for this. That's with Scott Concert and Emma Bjorling, that project. Emma is a fantastic Swedish singer that I'm very lucky to get to work with, and with also the people in Sky Concert, Alex Keeler and Amanda Kiesmat, who are all they're wonderful players, but mainly they're wonderful at contributing to that sort of group thing. So I had to sort of take off my arranger hat and say, like, we're doing this together, and everyone's listening to what everyone else has to say. It's a fun, different approach.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this session. I mean, we haven't even touched on Canada and how that supports your folk music, so we're going to have you back.
Okay.
There's too much more to talk about. Before we listen to the last song, I do just want to say thank you very much for talking to us, especially with the time difference. It's not so easy to stream into the UK, but thank you. And it's been really interesting. And I would encourage our audience to check out Shanty of the Week, educational and entertaining. So,
well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and it was lovely to meet you all.
No problem at all. Anyway, let's hear your last one, Liverpool Judies.
From Liverpool to Frisco a roving I went, and to stay in that country was my good intent. But drinking strong whiskey like other damn fools, well, I soon got transported back to Liverpool, and it's roll, roll, bullies, roll, those those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Row, boys. For 42 days we were hungry and sore, and the wind was against us and the gales they did roar. Off Battery Point we dropped anchor at last, with our jib boom hove in and the canvas all fast, and it's roll. Roll, roll, bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys. The boarding house master was off in a trace, he was shouting and promising all that was nice. And the one old fat crim, he got cotton to me. Oh, he says you're a fool, lad, to follow the sea. And it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys. Says he, there's a job and it's waiting for you. You get boatloads of liquor and there's not much to do. Says he, what you say, lad, and will you jump too? Well, says I, you old bastard, I'm damned if I do. And it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys. For the best of intentions, they never get far, after 42 days knocking back at the bar. Well, he bought me some liquor, and what do you think? Well, the dirty old bastard put drugs in my drink, and it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys. Well, the next thing I remember, it was off in the morn, on a 3 skysail yarder bound out for Cape Horn, with an old suit of oilskins and 2 pairs of socks, and a throb in me head, and a mouthful of rocks, and it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys. Come, all you young sailors, take warning by me, keep an eye on your drink when the liquor is free, and pay no attention to runner or whore, or your head will be sick and your throat will be sore, and it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. And it's roll, 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 bullies, roll, those Liverpool Judies have got us in tow. Roll, boys, roll.
Thank you so much, Sean. That was absolutely brilliant. And I dare our audience to try and get the shanties out of their head, because you won't be able to. Sorry. Anyway, let's move on to our next act for the evening. And they are based in Lincolnshire, and they're a wonderful duo who specialise in ceilidhs as well as much, much more. Let's welcome Kim and Phil Biggs. Welcome, Kim and Phil. It's great to have you here this evening. How are you both?
Well, very well, thank you.
Good. As I said to you before this, you look very tanned and indicative of this summer. Anyway, I think that we should probably start with your first song, get a taste for your music. And the first one we've got is Blue Highways. Could you tell me a bit about this?
Yes, of course. It's I wrote this a number of years ago after reading a book by William Leastheat Moon from America, who was a teacher for a profession, and when he retired from teaching, he bought a van or a truck, and he took off around the coast of America on the little roads to journey into America. The book was subtitled, and they were blue on his atlas, so he called the book Blue Highways. And the song is really a synopsis of the book, basically, and it brings him round to meet where his father was buried and completes the circle. So that's it, basically.
Traveling around that ribbon of highway, ribbon around your heart, circling around this great big country, right back to the start. Taking the back roads, taking the blacktop, taking the road for a white. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life. Take a look at your life, take a look at your job, ribbon around your heart. Travel your money, buy you a truck, right back to the start. Stash your savings behind the dash and put a bed in the back. Take off down that lonesome Traveling down that ribbon of highway, ribbon around your heart. Circling around this great big country, right back to the start. Taking the back roads, taking the black top, taking the road for a wife. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life. If you look at the map, it's a great big circle, ribbon around your heart. The ribbon of life going round and round and right back to the start. The blue roads lead to the lost and lonely towns along the way. They leave behind the chains of steel on fume-choked motorways. Traveling down that ribbon of highway, ribbon around your heart. Circling around this great big country, right back to the start. Taking the back roads, taking the black top, taking the road for a wife. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life. There's many people that you meet along the way, characterized in stories. You're gonna write a book someday. Blue highways cut the ridge back and ride the mountains wild. Across the lonely desert, the ghost steeps up the miles. Deep into the woods under the moon, ribbon around your heart. The grave is cold and lonely, right back to the start. Your father lies in peace in the Carolina sand. The circle is complete, you return a better man. Traveling down that ribbon of highway, ribbon around your heart. Circling around this great big country, right back to the start. Taking the back roads, taking the black top, taking the road for a wife. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life. Traveling down that ribbon of highway, ribbon around your heart. Circling around this great big country, right back to the start. Taking the back roads, taking the black top, taking the road for a wife. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life. The blue highways on the map, the blue highways of your life.
You can really hear the Americana coming out in that song, can't you?
It's a great influence to me. American folk music and country, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear that. But I was when we met before, I got an impression that you're both quite versatile performers. You're doing obviously this duo. You teach. You're in several other bands, music publishing or something like that, wasn't it, Kim? And then, but one thing I want to focus on for this little bit is about the Ceilidh side of things. And that's how you both met, isn't it? Through Ceilidh bands.
Yeah.
I suppose it is really, or through the folk club circuit as well. Yeah, we were first aware of each other, I think, via Revesby Folk Festival, which was run by our friend Mark, who's actually our bassist. Yeah, I think that's when we first got together, a long time ago now.
A long time.
You were in separate Ceilidh bands, and then.
That's right.
Yes, we were going different directions on Saturday nights, which neither of us liked.
Yeah, I used to play with the Rusty Bucket Band. That was my first Ceilidh band. And Phil at the time was played with a number of
Our Dog's brother was the band, yeah.
But yeah, it was a shame. I mean, especially when we were recording and then after we were married, you know, to be taking two cars out on you know, when we were gigging on Saturday night. So it wasn't, we'd far rather have been in the same band. So at the round about the same time, it was Tim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tim Cook was trying to put a Ceilidh band together and asked us about it, and we jumped at the chance. We thought, yeah, that's great. So we formed Ahmed's Camel with Ian and Mark, and along the way we've sort of occasionally had different personnel, but we're all back together again now.
Yeah, apart from Tim, bless him.
Apart from Tim, bless, yes.
Years ago,
he died in 2005, I think it was. which was yes, that was a great blow at the time. But I'm pleased to say we're still going strong and still camelling.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you've come full circle. That you'll always come back to almost your roots there.
It's great.
So what is it about ceilidh bands that you love so much?
Oh, well, I love dancing. Phil's not so keen on dancing. I love dancing and playing for dancing. So if I wasn't playing, I would be out on the dance floor. I've always loved dancing. I danced even when I was at primary school. We did country dancing, and I used to represent, we used to have a team from the school, and we used to go and do the local village fete. I can still remember dancing Flowers of Edinburgh when I had my little green kilt when I was about 8, 9. So I suppose I've always liked it. Always liked the dancers, always liked the music, always liked, and when I first started playing for ceilidh bands, I mean, that was just the other side of the fence, really, just playing for it. It's different. It's different from playing in a concert band, if you like, because you never know what's going to happen in the evening. You don't know whether people are going to get up and dance, or whether you're going to have to work harder to get them to get up and dance. You don't know whether they're going to be absolutely fantastic and they don't need much coaching, much instruction, or whether they really are beginners and you've got to sort of work a bit hard, and sometimes occasionally even stop the tune just to go over things again before you do it. We do that occasionally. I just love everything about it, really. I suppose it's in my blood. I like it.
Yeah.
I feel like quite often with any ceilidhs that I've experienced, there's always a bit of a partnership with booze. They sort of come hand in hand.
So
I think as the night gets on, either people get better or they get a bit worse.
Or they get more keen to get up and have a go, which is often the case. It's hard to get them up at the start, but when they've had a few beers down them, they're willing to give it a try. And once they get up, they enjoy it mostly, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a bit of a demographic with the ceilidh sort of audience? Is it usually older people, or is it a mix of all sorts of different people?
It's a mix, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it is a fair mix. I mean, most of what we do these days, I've got to say, is weddings. It's private stuff. You don't get so many, well, not in Lincolnshire anyway. We've found, I mean, we've been doing it a very long time. And we've found that over the years, there's been less fundraising ceilidhs. It's more private gigs, which is a shame because you can't advertise them to friends then, it's a private thing. So, not everybody can go that might want to go and dance. So in Lincolnshire, that's what we've found. That's a bit of a shame. It's lovely when you do get a fundraiser or something that is a public thing that everybody can come to, friends wise. You can invite them to those, and say, oh, come along. But so because it's often family group things, yes, it's very much a wide demographic, as you said. Yes, you can, although it depends. I mean, some gigs there might not be any children around at all, and others, it's sort of, it's just different every time. I think you can never be sure what you're going to get, unless they've told you. I mean, occasionally it's works things. We've done things for, again, that's private, isn't it? We've done things, especially in Peterborough, there's a doctor's surgery, isn't there? And they seem to have, every time anybody leaves or somebody has a baby or something, they have a ceilidh, and that's brilliant for us. So they'll organise that, and that's a private thing, but that's all colleagues together then, with a little bit of family members, so that's a different thing again, but they all tend to get on well then, those kind of things. It's just,
I'm a bit like that. I'm a bit like the doctor's surgery. I'll find any excuse to have a ceilidh. Like, it's my dad's birthday next year, and he hasn't got a choice. He has to have a ceilidh because we love it so much.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you could very, very briefly, I'm conscious of time, but just describe what a ceilidh is. I know that's hard, but just in case any of our audience members don't know what it is.
Right. Oh, well, ceilidh is a loose generic term, also known as barn dance, country dance, anything like that. I mean, it's, for us anyway, we tend to play traditional music from from the British Isles and from America. So we're very eclectic in our style. We do play it. We play traditional tunes, but we tend to put our own sort of spin on them. So they're a bit, you know, there's a little bit. We've got obviously got electric instruments, so we play them quite. Well, they've got a punch, you know. We play them with a bit of a punch.
But in England, certainly, a ceilidh is like a barn dance where you have a caller that tells everybody what to do. Rather than in Ireland, for instance, a ceilidh is just a gathering to dance, and everybody knows what to do, so they don't need to be told. But that's how it works in England. So that's really what ceilidh is, barn dance. Yeah,
barn dance. Yeah.
I went down to the hiring fair for to sell my labour, and I noticed a maid in the very next row and hoped that she'd be my neighbour. Oh, imagine then my delight when the farmer picked us both. I spoke not a word in the car to the farm, but my heart beat in my throat. Lodging was dry and my master fair, and I gave him full measure. But my envy grew with the corn in the field, for in his house was my treasure. I'd watch her carry water and drive cows from the barn, but the heat from the sun made the corn grow strong, and with it my desire. For I'd see her in my dreaming, and in my dreams caress her eyes, her lips, and her dark brown hair, the curves beneath her dress. But harvest time it soon came round, so heavy was the task, that the women and the men worked side by side, and I had an ear at last. I swung harder with my scythe, few words between us passed, and I cursed my tongue-tied youthfulness, and I hoped she'd hear my heart. When all was safely gathered in, and we sat down to rest, my trembling fingers touched her arm, and she placed them on her breast. She turned to me as the sun went down, and all my senses reeled, and we lay there on the scented ground, and the moon rose over the field. La 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 la. She was safely gathered in my arms when from the barn drifted the sound of a violin, and we hurried back to the farm, and all were dancing in the lantern light, and music filled the air, and I thanked my stars for the harvest moon and the girl from the hiring fair. And all were dancing in the lantern light, and music filled the air, and I thanked my stars blues for the harvest moon. And the girl from the hiring fair.
Brilliant. You can really tell with the guitar that it's a Ralph McTell song, can't you? It's got that classic Ralph guitar
Yeah.
underneath. No, it's
Oh,
beautiful.
he's a brilliant
And,
guitar.
yeah.
So still.
Yeah, no, to be able to do it, you have to be.
Not as good as Ralph, but
But wonderful storytelling as well. So thank you both for that one. And I think that maybe we should talk about another aspect of your musical life. So you're not just into Kayleeing, but you've got several bands, and one of them is one called Crossing the Tracks. Could you tell me a bit about that band?
Yes, Crossing the Tracks, it developed from an idea that the lead guitarist had, when did we say? 1994-ish, I think, to put together a group of musicians to record an album along the lines of the Transatlantic Sessions, if you'd seen those, where trying to mix kind of American music with traditional music with bluesy kind of country and rock together. And folk. So we got called in on the folk end of things initially, and it was while we were working on this CD that the drummer Ian said we should do a few gigs with this band. It's really good. So although the band was completely different to the eventual lineup,
there were 15 of us originally.
Yeah, and there's a few.
A lot of people.
A few others came in. Mark, our bassist, is with Crossing the Tracks, and established into quite a good Americana rock folk mix band, which hence the name Crossing the Tracks. We take from all sorts of genres of music, and in the words of our guitarist, we play what we like, not what people want. So, and it seems to work because we have a mix of popular songs and songs people have never heard of, but all in a certain style. And we have a website, don't we? And I've forgotten what the address is.
It's www.crossingthetracks. I think we're .com, aren't we?
Are we?
I think we're .com.
Yes. People can try .co.uk if it doesn't work. I would implore people to give Crossing the Tracks a look because they're really unique. I mean, there's one song that you do, "Sweet Child of Mine," which is it's obviously that classic, but you've made it your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love doing that.
We do love doing that. It was Phil's idea a long time ago. We
started. It was a phone ringtone that started it all off. That actually happened to be in the key of the song. So we used to put that to the mic and start the song with the intro. And then Kim learnt the intro.
We haven't looked back since.
The rest is history, really.
It's not like a version you've heard before, so definitely everyone check that out. But we should probably move on to the next song, which is another one it's absolutely brilliant. I love this one. Might be my favorite. And this is Donkey and the Cart and Sorcery. Is that what? Have I got the name right there?
Yes. Yeah, it's a set of tunes. Yeah, I wrote these quite a long time ago. I can't even remember when I wrote these. The first one, I was playing around with the tune, and because I was doing a few grace notes, it started to sound like a donkey braying. So I embraced that and put that in, throughout the tune. I put more of these grace notes in. So that's where that one comes from. It's donkey, the title anyway. They're both jigs, these two tunes. And the second one is called, we just call it Sorcery now. It's much less bother, but it had a longer title to start with. But I've got ideas going round in my head with John Kirkpatrick's Jump at the Sun tune. There's a 4-note little phrase there that sort of worked its way in to the tune, to my tune somehow. And also the style was very much the same style as Paul Dukas' The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which, if you remember, was used in the Fantasia film, the Disney Fantasia film. And I sort of flipped the way the tune works, that the structure of the tune or the shape of the tune, I turned it on its head and did something different with it. And all together, that ended up with this tune that you're going to play called Sorcery.
One thing I noticed with that tune is, Phil, your chord changes are just non-stop and they're so quick.
It's a tune written by an accordion player who only has to change a button to change chord.
Oh, only has to, eh?
So yes, loads of chords.
Yeah.
No, I love that, and I actually find
I do like lots of chord changes.
Well, I was going to say that the chord changes, along with like the syncopation in the rhythm, I find it really satisfying to hear. So,
yeah.
Oh, good.
That one.
Thank you. Yes.
But obviously, so that one was a self-penned tune, and you do some songwriting, don't you? And you mentioned before, what's it called, the Lincolnshire Folk Song Contest.
Yeah.
Does that have quite a big impact on your songwriting?
It does really, yeah. Because I'm not prolific by any means writing songs. I've written quite a few over the years, but the song competition makes you write. You know, it just comes up every year, and Tom Lane puts it all together. And it used to be Radio Lincolnshire that ran the competition. This year it's not. It's independent, and Tom's put it together this year. So it makes you sit down, and a lot of people say the same. I think, you know, there are some prolific writers in Lincolnshire that have always got lots of songs, but it makes you sit down and try and find something about the county to write about every year.
We're big fans of the competition. We always support it, even if, you know, whatever we write doesn't get through to the final. We do like to support it. It's a great thing. And the original idea, I think it was Danny, wasn't it? Our friend Danny Daly, was having a conversation with Tom way back in the day when it started. I think it was 1992 it started. And said, you know, it's a great thing to promote Lincolnshire through song, because they were finding, we all found, there's not a lot of songs. There are some, obviously, but there's not a great deal of songs about the county. So this was a way of getting people to write about the county and promote it. And it certainly has done that. I mean, where are we? 92, 2002, 2002. It's nearly 30 years, isn't it? Nearly 30 years worth of all those songs that have been written every year, pretty much. There were a couple of years we didn't have it, wasn't there? But yeah, just think the volume of material that's been written about the county in that time. It's just fantastic, and we're big supporters.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, obviously, so you have to write a song about Lincolnshire, so that's something that you have to do mutually. But do you find that your styles of writing are the same, or do they differ quite a lot between the two of you?
I think they're quite different. I think Kim's more traditional based, and I'm more kind of Americana and country based, really, with my songs. Also, of course, I write on the guitar. You usually write on piano or
so either the piano or accordion, which is probably why it sort of sounds a bit more traditional, the things that I do. And you tend to write lyrics and music at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I tend to I'll sit down and write lyrics first, usually, and then set a tune to it. I mean, I might have something that pops into my head according to the lyrics. You know, I might have an idea for a chorus or something, but usually it's the lyrics that will get written first, and then I'll set them. Yes.
Well, I think that's great that you've got such different styles, but you managed to blend them together and make them work when you perform together. And I think that we'll see that in our final song. Even though you didn't write it, we still see you two working together to create such a beautiful sound. And this last song is called Wrong Side of Heaven.
There's a mariachi man on a street downtown El Paso, dodging the traffic in search of a job for the night, standing in doorways hoping to peddle some romance, and he will sing for his supper till it's daylight. Left his dear wife and his children with practically nothing, and swam through the darkness across the broad Rio Grande. A battered guitar and a suitcase, his only companions. All of the hopes for the future held in his hand. He was born on the wrong side of the river, born on the wrong side of the tracks, born on the wrong side of heaven, and he's never going back. For 6 months or more he's been dodging the border patrolman, and in papers he knows what a chance meeting means. Lying in the alley he sleeps all day with one eye open. He knows if they catch him it's more than the end of a dream. He was born on the wrong side of the river, born on the wrong side of the tracks, born on the wrong side of heaven, and he's never going back. And he misses his Consuela like there's a hole in his heart. He knows that she'll be praying for him tonight. It's a matter of survival that's keeping them apart. Just a few dollars more, just a few dollars more. Da, 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 da. rings out on a street in downtown El Paso. He falls to the gutter and dies there, but nobody cries. And the newspapers say he's a victim of fierce competition. Just one more wetback who never quite made paradise. He was born on the wrong side of the river, born on the wrong side of the tracks, born on the wrong side of heaven, and he's never going back. He was born on the wrong side of the river, born on the wrong side of the tracks, born on the wrong side of heaven, and he's never going back.
Thank you so much, Kim and Phil. I gotta tell you, amazing musicians and really lovely people. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I hope that you've all learnt something today. I certainly have. It's been really, really interesting talking about such a diverse range of styles, should I say. Please keep up to date with all of our future Tuesday Folk People sessions by signing up to our mailing list or keeping an eye on our social media or website, and you'll get all updates for that. We have so much more to offer you in the future, and so you don't want to miss it. Thank you for joining us for yet another wonderful Tuesday Folk People. We couldn't do it without you.